Another workload that is key to Microsoft 365 is Microsoft Teams. The functionality that allows your users to meet with audio and video, allow them to share their screens, allow them to establish voice calls or video calls to each other, allows them to communicate with the external world and internally with their teams, share files, share chats. And there are many, many functionalities and third-party apps that integrate into Microsoft Teams. As an administrator, there are many settings that can be configured for Microsoft Teams, and I urge you to explore this workload that has a lot of configuration options, probably more than any other workloads inside of Microsoft 365. So I've already pre-opened the Teams Admin Center, which is available from the list of admin centers because sometimes it can take up to a minute to open up. The Teams Admin Center is completely new, and since this is an evolution from previous products such as Microsoft Office Communication Server, then it became Microsoft Links Server and Microsoft Skype for Business Server, and which by the way has nothing to do with Microsoft Skype, the commercial product or the end-user product. Microsoft Teams is really a product that's very different than its predecessors. The evolution has gone way and above the source of functionalities that these source products had, and the new tools that are available both to manage Microsoft Teams and to use it as an end user have completely changed and look nothing like what they used to in Skype for Business Server, the most recent predecessor. So from the Teams Admin Center, I have many options. I just want to highlight a few things that are key here. First of all, the fact that we manage Teams. Teams are managed through this interface over here. Teams are the various meeting spaces that we create for you, the users. Now you remember that I created a team earlier named Project 1, so it appears here. Even though I created it in another video as part of the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, it shows up here in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. So here I see the members of the team. I can open the team by clicking on this link and it would open up the Teams client as well. I can send an email to the team because it is a mail-enabled group as well. I have my channels in the team, which are sort of my subsections of the team where I can organize both applications and documents and chats and so on. And then I have team settings. Now if you note here, all of these settings don't have options, I just see what the settings are. For example, the ability to delete sent messages, it's set to on. If I want to set it to off, I need to use some type of a policy, and there are many policies. You can navigate through them in the Microsoft Teams Center, but most of the settings, both applying to users, to teams and other configurations are applied through policies. So the policies here are what are applying most of my settings. So if I navigate below, I will get to my users. So this is where I see all of my users, and each user I see the policies that are assigned to the user as well. I have some specific user settings that are related to teams that I can configure. I can specify and view all the teams that the user is part of. I can see any voicemails that are pending, the current calls or the last calls that the users had. Any devices, specific Microsoft Teams certified devices that are assigned to my account or that I've been using and signed into, I can see those devices, again, the policies that apply to me, and any of my recent usage. Interestingly enough here, I can also see my call quality through this portal. So I see any recent calls and the quality of those calls. If I move down below, I have an interface here for my Teams devices. I mentioned there are Teams devices. There's even a store where you can go ahead and actually purchase devices. Going down below, I have some additional options here that would be very relevant to administrators that are planning their deployment of Microsoft Teams. So if I click here on Planning, I have the Teams Advisor, a tool that helps me in my steps to migrate and implement Teams, as well as a network planner where I'll be able to go ahead and specify the amount of bandwidth required that I need based on specific personas, different types of users, remote workers, office workers for example, and I can add additional personas, upload a plan of my network and then evaluate the bandwidth requirement. For my future Teams implementation, if you've already implemented Team and you want to have a good idea of what type of quality network connectivity your users have, you can also use the Call Quality Dashboard, which is available also from the Teams Admin Center. It takes a little bit to open, so I've opened up in advance for you. And it shows the overall call quality for my recent calls. For example, here, if I click on a previous month, it shows me that there were over 300 calls, but 4 of them had poor quality, which represents just a little bit above 1%. It's a very low percentage of bad calls, and overall that's quite an acceptable trend. And this allows me to identify if some of my connectivity issues were related to network problems or other problems. I'd be able to dive a little bit deeper based on the data that I'm getting here. So Microsoft Teams is one of those products that has a tremendous amount of configuration, both configuring your users, your devices, your policies, your teams. And if you go a little bit further, eventually you'll be able to configure your voice settings as well.